Well, I told you that we want to discuss matters rice. And probably, maybe you're having rice for supper, or maybe you're planning to have rice for your breakfast. Tell you this, rice is the third most consumed staple food in this country. This is after maize and wheat, actually. And globally, it is also one of the highest consumed food and one of the biggest source of proteins, of nutrition to many people in Asia. Well, and Kenya is also targeting to ramp up its rice production through rain-fed and as well as irrigation schemes. Well, let's now go to the Super War and have a look at what are the measures that the government is putting in place to ensure that we ramp up our rice production. Well, according to the Big Four agenda, of course, we all know about food and nutrition security commitment. Food availability, we are talking about maize, rice and potatoes. These are the three foods that the government is targeting to increase. And the target here is to raise the maize production from 40 million bags in 2017 to around 67 million bags by the year 2022. Rice, on the other end, the plan is to increase rice to from about 112,000 metric tons to around 124,000 metric tons in 2018, and eventually increase these to around 406,000 metric tons. Potatoes, on the other hand, to increase these to about 1.3 million metric tons to around 2.52 million metric tons. These are the plans according to the Big Four agenda. Let's now go to the next slide. Well, very interesting here. The issue of rice here again being addressed. Production last year was about 800,000 metric tons. The plan is to see to it that we produce about 180,080 metric tons, and this plan is to gradually increase rice production to around 486,000 metric tons by the year 2022. Let's look at consumption, which offers some very interesting insight here. Currently, consumption stands at around 539,000 metric tons. When you compare that with the production in the year 2012, in the year 2017, you realize that we have a huge deficit here, which we must close by all means. And this year, it is expected that consumption will also go up from 538,000 metric tons last year to around 566,634,000 metric tons, and the plan is the consumption is expected to go up to around 695,000 metric tons. Imports, on the other end, last year we imported about 425,570,000 metric tons, and the plan is actually to bring this number down. This is where the story gets juicier. Is to bring this number down to around 288,000 metric tons. A lot of work definitely here needs to be done, and a lot of investment. Price per kg, a kilo of pishori last year was retailing at 140 shillings, and it is expected that it will come down because of improved production to around 100 shillings by the year 2022. And that was pishori. Regular rice was retailing at 100 shillings last year. It is expected to come down by 30 shillings by the year 2022. The question is, what is the government doing, and what does the government intend to do to ensure that the visions and the aspirations of the Big Four agenda on food and nutrition security is realized? My guests are in the studio. We are discussing rice production tonight. You don't need to go anywhere. In case you're having rice for dinner, bon appetit. Stay right here. We are coming back with a big interview. Bye. Welcome back. You're watching Business Insight. We are live from Broadcasting House. My Twitter handle is at O'Brien Kimani and at KBC Channel 1 #Business Insight. Those are the social media platforms that we are using tonight to interact with you. Gentlemen, do you have Twitter handles?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
What is your Twitter handle?
NIB at NIB Kenya.
At NIB Kenya?
Yeah.
That is your Twitter handle?
At NIB Kenya.
At NIB Kenya.
Yeah.
Well, at NIB Kenya, that is the Twitter handles, actually the Twitter handle for the two gentlemen. If you would want to interact with them, questions and of course compliments are welcome. Well, let's now discuss matters to do with rice. You see, Kenya has a long history with rice, you know, that dates back to the year 1900. So we're talking about 100+ years of rice production in this country. I want to hear from you when you look at the government aspirations as far as the Big Four agenda outline. Number one, do we have the ability, you know, to scale up our rice production from the current projection of 124,000 metric tons to around 400,000 metric tons? And I want to start with you, Ariemba.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, the government has the capacity to...
Wait a minute, I actually never gave out your names. We are in the good company of Mr. Innocent Ariemba. He is the manager of Mwea Irrigation Scheme. He's right next to me. Thank you very much, Mr. Ariemba.
Thank you, Brian.
And Mr. John Wambugu is the manager, Mwea Rice Mills Limited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed also for
Thank you
joining
so
us
much.
here.
Thank you so much.
Please continue.
Okay, thank you. So, as I was saying, the government has the capacity to bridge the gap between the demand for rice in this country and the production. Currently, as you have indicated, we are producing about 124,000 metric tons. That has been the traditional production levels for this country.
Yeah.
But as from, let's say like 2 years ago, our production has risen to 160 metric tons. This is due to the various interventions that the National Irrigation Board has put in place to ensure that there is increased production so as to bridge the gap.
So, sorry, are you saying there has been an increase in production in the last 2 years?
Definitely, that's what I'm saying. From the 124,000 metric tons, which we have been producing traditionally, we have so far increased within the last 2 years from the 104,000 metric tons to 160 metric tons.
260
metric tons.
260,000 metric tons.
Yeah, sure.
But still, that is a drop in the ocean.
Sure.
Bearing in mind that, according to JICA, that is Japan International Cooperation Agency, Kenya has the capacity to produce more than 1 million metric tons, you know, of rice. And when we talk about 160, definitely that is a drop in the ocean, right?
Sure.
So what are we not doing right?
Okay, there are various interventions which have been put in place, and we believe that in the next like 2-3 years, we are going to see quite a huge increase of rice production in this country from the current 160 we are talking about to about 400 metric tons. 400,000 metric tons.
400,000 metric tons.
If you look at the various interventions, as I've said, and one of them is intensification of rice production in the various rice producing schemes in the country, which include Mwea, Ahero, West Kano, Bunyala. Those are the public irrigation schemes. And of course, there are several other small-scale rice irrigation schemes which are owned by communities. But within the public irrigation schemes, the government, through National Irrigation Board, intends to intensify rice production. By intensification, we mean currently we are doing one production season per a calendar year. Yeah. But from this season, we'll be doing 230%. So we
230%
in intensity, rice production intensity. So
by
that we mean we are going to do 2 1/3 production seasons taking for example Mwea Irrigation scheme,
Yeah.
which has about 26,000 acres under rice production, and which produces about 70% of the rice which is locally produced.
Yeah.
We are going to do the 26,000 acres twice.
You're going to double these
Yeah, we are going to double that.
to around 52,000.
52,000, and not only doubling, we'll do the double, and we do another 10,000 additional.
So
in
we're
total,
projecting to have about 62,000 hectares under irrigation.
Yeah, under
Very
rice
well. I'm
production.
coming back to you, but I want to hear from John. I mean, you've been milling rice since the 1960s.
You're right.
I want to hear from you. How comes, rice farming does not attract multinational companies?
Actually, what is happening in Mwea, in the last 10 years, there was only one mill, that was Mwea Rice Mills Limited.
Yeah.
And it used to handle all the rice grown in Mwea, and there was no other mill. But after liberalization, there was other mills which are installed in Mwea, and what happened to Mwea Rice Mill is that it decided also to upgrade the milling technology. And initially, Mwea Rice Mills had the capacity to mill all the rice grown in Mwea, because it had about 4 units, that is 4 mills, of a total rated capacity of 15 tons per hour. But just recent, in the year 2014, we upgraded the milling technology, and that's where we are. So what I would say is that there was no way that we had that we would have had rice being exported, because whatever was actually grown here was actually consumed here.
I get you, but what I'm trying to find out, or to figure out from you, is this. I mean, rice farming is such a lucrative business in this country, because we always have a deficit, and we're importing almost 70% of our requirements from Pakistan. I want to hear from you. How comes we are yet to start? We are yet to see the private sector, getting into rice farming. Is it that it is too technical? Is it too capital intensive, or what is the challenge here?
No, there are so many challenges in rice farming, and specifically in Mwea. And one is the area under irrigation, that is Mwea Irrigation scheme, as you heard from the senior scheme manager. There are about 26,000 acres. And that area, specifically that area, was the only area that harbored rice farming. And I do believe that rice as a staple food is later than
Yes.
from maybe maize and
wheat and rice, yeah.
And I do believe that rice is almost consumed. In the world, half of the world population is actually consuming rice.
Yes, about 3.2 billion.
Yeah, it's consuming rice. And it's one of the main staple food which is actually consumed by most of them. So I believe rice is consumed by almost everybody in the world. Yes.
So still, I want to hear from you, Ariemba. How comes rice farming has been left to the government in this country? What is so hard that investors don't find this business so lucrative, yet we have a huge demand?
Okay, maybe what I can say is that, of course, a number of investors have attempted to do large-scale rice production in Kenya. Of course, we know Dominion Farms in the Yara Swamp who attempted. But of course, as my colleague has indicated, there are a number of challenges which the rice producers experience, and one of them is the high cost of production. For the season we concluded, that's the 2017-2018 cropping season, the cost of production was actually around 48 shillings per kilo of paddy rice. So of course, from that you can see it will not be very competitive in the market compared to the other rice varieties from like Pakistan. But of course, it also depends on the variety. Like what is produced in Mwea is premium rice, Bishori rice, which is a high-end rice variety. And as I've already indicated, that's the rice which actually sells favorably in the Kenyan market. But the cost of production is very high. So our farmers we need to bring down the cost of production by addressing a number of issues which affect the cost of production, like of course the inputs, the fertilizer. Of course, the government has introduced subsidized fertilizer for most of the other crops. But in rice production, where unlike in the other crops like maize, we use fertilizers like sulfate of ammonia. We are yet to come in at the right time so that the farmers can enjoy the benefit.
Very good. Actually, you talked about Dominion, food. Who actually tried to get into this business, in the Nyanza region of this country, but they failed. And one of the reasons why they cited was that there are no incentives, from the government side, to help private investors, to come in and capitalize on the deficit. Wambugu, from where you see it, what are some of the incentives do you think the government should give, to private investors, in order to attract more investment into rice farming?
Brian, one of the, like now, if I talk about the government, what it's doing now, it is providing subsidized inputs to the farmers at the moment. So they are trying to complement the farmer and make sure that that farmer is actually reaping the benefit of what he's doing. That is one. At the same time, the pricing of the paddy that the farmer is actually growing, like now this year, the paddy is at 65 as I'm talking with you in Mwea. So that is also another area that the farmer is capitalizing. There's also the issue of availability of water, which is actually provided by the National Irrigation Board. So the farmer is also benefiting out of it. And also the general infrastructure of where rice is actually grown. Those are the kind of things that incentive that the government is actually providing to the farmer. So the farmer is actually accessing or rather...
So those are farmers?
Yes.
What about investors?
On investors...
Should we give, tax holidays, on people planning to invest in this area? Or should we say, for somebody who is importing equipment that will go towards, rice farming, we're going to reduce, for example, duty on this kind of things. Should we go this way?
I think it is okay for the investors, maybe the external investor to come and invest in rice farming. The government can come in and actually maybe try to reduce the taxes and also introduce other benefits that may be able to attract the investors. But currently, if I may talk about the Dominion farm, it was in Siaya, Nyanza, how they went out of that place and they stopped growing rice. There were so many challenges which are not related to the government. There were actually challenges maybe of the social challenges. And
even political challenges.
Yes, those are some of the reasons that made Dominion Farm to stop doing what they are doing.
And exit
because
the
sometimes
rice farming business.
foreigners are sensitive to political and social aspect of Yeah.
Ariemba, I want to hear from you. In order for us, because it is estimated that, as a country, we spend close to 50 billion shillings importing rice. Then, if we were to, how much then do we need to keep on investing, in order to ensure that we meet our target in the next 5 years of about 400,000 metric tons? What do we need to do?
Okay. Some of the major limitations to rice production, one of the very major is availability of irrigation water. So one of the key investments that the government should focus on is water harvesting and storage. And of course, as you already know, currently the government in various parts of the country has already invested in various dams, which are currently under construction. One of them being the Thiba Dam, of which the contractor is already on site, and we expect that in the next 3 years we'll start harvesting and storing water so that the flows are regulated. Because actually that's the very major factor that is hindering expansion of rice production in this country.
But we also know, the politics around the construction of Thiba Dam and the social challenges, it is facing. Having that in mind, so are you still confident that we can still go on, and almost more than triple, rice production in this country in the next 5 years?
Most definitely, with the pace that the current government has taken, we are almost certain that, because already, like Thiba Dam and many other dams are already on course. Of course, despite all those other previous challenges, the political issues that have surrounded the starting of those projects have already been overcome. So we believe that we'll move somewhere. We'll move somewhere.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wambugu, I want to hear from you. I mean, when you look at, the average production, per hectare here in Kenya is about 5.5 tons. This is for Pishori, and about 7 tons, for the ordinary rice.
Yeah.
When you compare this with, let's say, Thailand, whereby, the average would be around 18, 17, what are we not doing right here? Is it that we're using the wrong farming techniques, or are we using the wrong fertilizer and other farm inputs?
If I may comment on what is done in Thailand and what is done in Kenya, most of that which is done in Thailand is nanomatic. And nanomatic rice, the production, the yield of nanomatic rice is more.
Nanomatic rice,
is more
to Pishori.
Yes, is more than Pishori. So you can get maybe an acre giving you about 50 bags of nanomatic rice of 8 kg, and from a normal acre here in Mwea, you get between 25 to 30 bags of 8 kg. So you can just compare the two. But when it comes to on the side of costing, you may basmati is actually going for maybe 65 and nanomatic about 70. So I mean nanomatic maybe below that, be about 50, 40. So I do believe even when Mwea, in one of the sections when the Sidano was actually grown, was done, we were getting about 50 bags from an acre. But now people are not, farmers are not doing nanomatic, they are doing aromatic rice.
They're doing aromatic.
Yes.
So there's a serious
which is actually
migration
more
towards unromantic
yes.
to romantic,
aromatic.
Non-aromatic to
aromatic
rice.
And maybe before we move out of that, there's a huge increase of the average production of rice, whether it's the aromatic or the non-aromatic, in Mwea and all the other public irrigation schemes. Like if I can give an example of the last cropping season, in Mwea the average yield was 6.25 tons per hectare for the aromatic, for the Bishori rice, which is slightly above the the optimal or the expected production. So there is a significant, and for the other varieties, we have had production levels going up to 10, 12 tons per hectare in the other parts of the country, like in West Kano, in Bunyala, and in Ahero. So there have been efforts towards addressing the productivity through capacity building and other interventions at the farm level.
Very well.
Yeah.
So, Amethyst, you know, have we really so much focused on Mwea, you know, at the expense of other regions like Pekera irrigation scheme? You've talked about Yala, Bunyala, and it has also been confirmed that rice will also do very well in the northern part of this country.
Of course, as you have correctly put it, National Irrigation Board has already introduced rice production in Pekera. There is the Nerika rice, which was being marketed by Carlo. Is currently being produced in Pekera. We have also introduced rice production in Tana River. There is Bura and Hola irrigation schemes.
Yeah.
So that's why we are saying that from the current 160 metric tons, we expect that in this year, we are going to get about 190 metric tons.
From 160?
From 160.
Last year?
Yeah.
To 190?
To 190.
So an increase of 30,000 metric tons?
Yeah, and this will be out of intensification and also expansion of the area and the rice production. Yeah.
So, Amethyst, how much then do we need to invest, you know, in order for us to realize our target?
Okay, how much? That might be a tricky question to answer, but as we indicated, you know, this is supposed to be a gradual process. We invest in water harvesting and storage. We invest on capacity building of the farmers. We invest in capacity building of the technical staff and several other aspects, so that by the year 2022, as per the government aspiration, we are able to achieve the 406,000 metric tons, which is anticipated.
Very well. Tell me this, because we have to wind up. Time is running out fast. You know, post-harvest losses is also another challenge that we have faced as a country. And it is estimated that about 15 to 20% of all produced rice here goes to waste, you know, after harvest. What do we need to do, you know, in order for us to minimize these significant losses?
One, what we should do is to mechanization. Will reduce post-harvest losses.
Yeah.
Right now in Mwea, we are rice harvesters there. And I do believe that post-harvest losses is minimal at the moment. Yeah. The other thing we need to do is to also mechanize on drying of our rice. Like when we are, like now, most of the farmers there are sun drying their rice, their paddy. And you know, when they are scattering their rice, there is still losses. So what we need to do is maybe to come up with dryers that can be able to dry our rice. So all the way from the field.
And this is government who is supposed to provide all this.
Yes, and also the private investors. So what we can do is to mechanize the whole process.
Mechanization.
Yes, after we do that, then you have done away with post-harvest losses.
Post-harvest losses.
Yes.
Do you agree with him?
Sure. And of course, other than the actual post-harvest losses, we also have quite a significant losses in at the field due to migratory birds, which also we need to find a modern way of controlling, other than the usual bird scaring. Not necessarily killing.
What do we need to do with the birds?
In other places, they are using drones. There are various technologies, of course, modern technologies, which are being used to.
So when do you plan to introduce this kind of, you know, bird fighting mechanisms?
Okay, we are already in engagement with other key stakeholders. As you already know, agriculture is a dual function.
Yeah.
So we are in engagement with the county government. We are in engagement with the other key stakeholders, private people in universities, to come up with the most appropriate way of handling the bad menace.
Very well. Finally, gentlemen, because we have to wind up, Teo Mythis, rice consumption has been growing at a rate of about 10%, annually. But when you look at production, it has not been growing in tandem with consumption, forcing the country to incur significant resources, in importing. Teo Mythis, would you want to assure Kenyans that they will continue to enjoy Kenyan-grown rice?
Okay, what I could wish to tell the Kenyans, first maybe I'll start with the farmers. Let's look at rice
and you
farming.
have 30 seconds.
Yeah, let's look at rice farming as a business. Let's capitalize on modern technology. To the government employees, let's serve with devotion. To the Kenyan people, let's buy Kenya, build Kenya.
Very well. But even if they were to buy Kenya and
we
build
believe,
Kenya, we don't have enough rice, right?
For many years, the government had not invested in irrigation development.
Yeah.
And development of irrigation infrastructure is a process. So, but in the past, like 5-10 years, we have seen quite a lot of investment in irrigation development.
Very
so
well.
we believe that things will be okay.
Very well. Your parting remarks.
Thank you. So what I would tell Kenyans is to consume whatever they are growing within themselves. Make sure that they become loyal to their products and they consume more of what they are producing. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so very much indeed for joining us here and of course helping us to understand what's happening in the field of rice farming in Kenya.
Thank you.
Otherwise, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, we have been in the company of Innocent Ariemba. He is the manager, Mwea Irrigation Scheme, and John Wambugu, who is the manager of Mwea Rice Mills Limited, joining us here in studio to help us understand matters to do with rice farming, where we are and where we plan to go and how we need to do in order for us to get there. You're watching Business Insight. We are back shortly.